Hi class, I want to do a video for you on operations with fractions, kind of just going back to the basics with some examples of how you do problems like that involve addition, subtraction with fractions. You might remember you need something called a LCD, or least common denominator, to do that. Then we'll do some how you multiply fractions, and then we'll talk about how you do division with fractions when you have a fraction divided by another fraction. Okay, so again, we can talk about addition and subtraction, kind of the same procedure, how you handle those, multiplication and dividing fractions. Okay, so when you want to do addition, what you need to do is you need to get a common denominator. So what that means is the bottom part of the fraction of each fraction needs to be the same number. Then all you're going to do is you're going to add or subtract whatever the numerator is, and then you're going to keep the denominator the same. So what I have over here is two examples of this. So the first one here, I know you can see the solutions, but I'll walk you through how you get them. So the first one is you have 2/3 plus 1/4. So the top is called the denominator, and the bottom is called, the top is called the numerator, and the bottom is called the denominator. Sorry about that. So what you need to do is you need to get the denominators the same. So what you do is you look at the numbers 3 and 4, and what you're looking for is the least common multiple. So like what number does both 3 and 4 divide into equally? What's the smallest number they both divide into equally? Well, that would be the number 12. So to turn the 3 into a 12, what you do is you multiply it by 4. Okay? So whatever I multiply the bottom by, so I multiply 3 by 4, I multiply the top by 4. So this becomes 2 times 4 gets me 8. You do the same thing on the other side. Well, to turn this denominator of a 4 into a 12, I need to multiply it by a 3. So I do the same thing for the top. I multiply 1 by 3, and I get 3. So now they have a common denominator at the bottom. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to add or subtract the numerators, the top. So you're going to go 8 plus 3 gets me 11, and then you're going to keep the denominator the same, which is the 12. So 2/3 plus 1/4 is equal to 11/12. Same thing over here. So I have 7/8 minus 1/2. So they do not have the same bottom. They do not have the same denominator. So I need to find the least common multiple of 8 and 2. Well, if you just think of the number 8, 8 divides into 8 evenly, and 2 can also divide into 8. So the least common denominator here is the number 8. It's a good thing because for the first fraction here, I don't need to do anything. So 7/8 stays at 7/8. To change the 2 to an 8, I need to multiply it by 4. 2 times 4 gets me 8. Well, then 1 times 4 gets me 4. So that's good. Now they have the same denominator. So 7 minus 4 gets me 3. And our answer here is 3/8. All right, multiply fractions. All you're going to do is you're going to multiply straight across. So the tops multiplied by the tops, so numerators times the numerators. And then the bottom multiplied by the bottom, or the denominator times the denominator. Or what you can do is you can reduce early. I'll show you how to do that. Then multiply across. And then in each case, what you would do is you check to see if you can simplify. All right, so here are my examples. First one, I have 3/8 times 2/3. Well, what I'm going to first do is take 3 times 2. This is what I mean by multiply across. 3 times 2 gets me 6. And then 8 times 3 here. Well, 8 times 3 gets me 24. Now I have 6/24, so you have to ask yourself can this be simplified at all? Well, a 6 goes into both the numerator and the denominator. Okay, so a 6 goes into 6 one time, and a 6 goes into the 24 4 times. So this 6/24 simplifies to 1/4. Let's look at the other one. I have 3/5 times 1/6. So here's what I mean by simplifying first. Well, you're going to look, does 3 divide into or go into 6? Yes. So a 3 goes into 3 one time, and a 3 goes into the 6 two times. So that just cancels. So whenever you cancel something fully, you're always left with a 1. So then you can see now it's a little bit easier because I have 1 times 1, which gets me 1. And then 5 times 2 here gets me 10. All right, let's do dividing fractions. So dividing fractions is actually a multiplication problem, believe it or not. Okay, so that's why I say the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rewrite it as a multiplication problem. But then what you're going to do is you're going to keep the first fraction as whatever it is, and then you're going to flip the second fraction, take its reciprocal. Okay, you actually might have even sometimes heard it as to keep, change, flip. So you keep the first fraction, change the division to multiplication, and then flip the second one. All right, then after that, after you change the divide to multiply, like I said, you're going to see how this simplifies out real quickly. So for this problem here, suppose I have 9 over 16 divided by 3 over 4. Well, you're going to keep the first fraction, all right, as it is. You're going to change the division problem to multiplication, and then you are going to take your second fraction and whoop, flip it upside down, take the reciprocal. So now here what you're going to do is you're just going to, once you've got this, now you're just going to multiply across. So 9 times 4 gets me 36. 16 times 3 gets me 48. And 12 will go into both of these. It'll go into the top 3 times, and it'll go into the bottom 4 times. So 36 over 48 just simply reduces to 3/4. All right, whew, I know that was a lot, but we'll keep working through it. All right, let's just do some practice problems here together, okay? So the first one here, what I encourage you to do is to pause the video and try these practice problems on your own, and then come back and see if you get the same things that I get when we go through these when I go through these practice problems. Okay. So 2/3 plus 2/5. Well, you need the common denominator there. So think about the least common multiple between 3 and 5. Okay, well, I think that would be 15. So to change the 3 to a 15, I need to multiply both the top and bottom by 5. So 2 times 5 gets me 10. Same thing down here. To change the 5 into a 15, I need to multiply by 3. So 2 times 3 gets me 6. And then just add the numerators. So 10 plus 6 gets me 16. Keep the denominators the same. So 16 over 15. This right here is what we call an improper fraction. Okay, what an improper fraction means, it means is the numerator is larger than the denominator. This right here is what we call a mixed number. So the way you get a mixed number is you say, okay, well, how many times does 15 divide into 16? 1 time. And when I do that, what's my remainder? Well, I have 1 left over, so it's 1 and 1/15 left over. So whatever the denominator was, that still stays over here under the remainder. All right, let's go over here. Wow, this one's got 3 fractions. So 5/6 plus 3/4 plus 1/2. So you need to look at the denominators. What's the least common denominator here? Well, that would be 12. Okay, so to change the 6 to a 12, we multiply by 2. So 5 times 2 gives me 10. To change the 4 to a 12, we multiply by 3. So 3 times 3 gives me 9. To change the 2 to a 12, we multiplied that by 6. So 1 times 6 gets me 6. So now I have 10/12 plus 9/12 plus 6/12. So just add, going left to right. So 10 plus 9 gets me 19/12. 19 plus 6 gets me 25/12. So this is an improper fraction that I was talking about. So how you change this to a mixed number? Well, how many times does 12 go into 25? Twice, yeah. And then when you go, that gets me the number 24. So I took 24 out of 25. Well, that leaves me with 1/12 left over as my remainder. All right, you can keep going with these practice problems as you can see here. So we got 5/6 minus 3/5. We got some subtraction here. So look at 6 and 5. The LCD here, the least common denominator, is 30. So 5/6 turns into 25/30. 3/5 turns into 18/30, just using the same procedure I did in the previous problems. And then now all it is here is subtraction. So 25 minus 18 gets me that 7. So this reduces to, or this simplifies to 7 over 30. Going over and looking at problem number 4. Well, so look at the denominators. You got 12, 3, and 4. Well, the least common denominator there is 12. So this is awesome because this doesn't need to change. Just the 2/3 and the 1/4 need to change. And this changes, 2/3 changes into 8/12. 1/4 changes into 3/12. Now just subtract first. So 11 minus 8 gets me 3. And then I still have this 3/12 over here. So then 3 plus 3 gets me 6. Well, then what does 6/12 reduce to? Well, 6 goes into 6 one time, and 6 goes into 12 two times. So it simplifies to 1/2. All right, we got some multiplication here. All right, so how do we do multiplication? Well, remember, there's two ways. You can just multiply straight across, or you can simplify first. So here, what I'm going to do, 5/9 times 3/8, I'm going to simplify first. So the 3 up here goes into the 9 3 times. So this 3 will turn into a 1. This 9 would turn into a 3. And then just multiply across. 5 times 1 gets me 5. 3 times 8 gets me 24. And 5 over 24 cannot be simplified anymore. All right, let's take a look over here. All right, so this one has got multiplication and then addition. So here you have to follow your orders of operation. So you're going to multiply the fractions first. So 4 times 2 gets me 8. 5 times 3 gets me 15. So this just becomes 8 over 15 plus this 11 over 15 here. Well, 8 plus 11 gets me 19 over the 15 because that's the denominator. And then how do you change this improper fraction into a mixed number? Well, 15 goes into 19 one time with a remainder of 4. So it's 1 and 4/15 is our answer. All right, let's do the division problems now. So remember, division problems just like multiplication, right? Like it's basically a multiplication problem. All you have to do is that extra step of flipping it. So I have 7/8 divided by 3 over 4 first, and then this looks weird. I have 3/4 divided by 5/6 in question number 8 here. Well, this fraction here, all right, that's why I called it division. That's all it is. It's just a division problem. So in both cases here, this problem here is the same as 3/4 divided by, so this fraction just is a division, 5/6. All right, so over here, keep the first as 7/8. Change this to multiplication and whoop, flip the second fraction. So 3/4 becomes 4/3. Simplify here. The 4 goes in the 8 2 times. So 7 times 1 is 7. 2 times 3 is 6. I've got 7/6 as my improper fraction. And then as a mixed number, 6 goes into 7 one time with the remainder of 1/6. Over here, all we're going to have to do, don't simplify first. You always have to do the keep, change, flip first. So keep 3/4, change this to multiplication, and flip the 5/6 to become 6/5. You'll notice here how I simplified. Well, what I did here was 4 and 6. Do they have a common factor? Yes, it's 2. So I'm going to divide a 2 out in the 4. Okay, so that becomes a 2. I'm going to divide a 2 out in the 6. That becomes a 3. And then I've got 3 times 3 gets me 9. And 2 times 5 gets me 10. And that's the answer. So I hope this was a good review of how you work with fractions.